minutes is from the Catholic guy, St. Paul native, Lino Rulli. Welcome to the stage.
All right, I'd like everybody to stand up again if you wouldn't mind, please. And I'm going to sit down. Thank you. All right, this is actually the way I was going to do it, but it's going to only be 20 minutes I'm going to talk, so you'll be just fine like this. I think in order to reach... Okay, you can sit down. You can sit down, everybody. All right. Boy, now I know what a priest feels like. You guys really are attentive. You just follow the orders. Okay, we'll do whatever you want. It's very attentive. I appreciate that. So I get to speak about how to reach the under 40 crowd, and they booked it at just the right time because I turned 40 in 2 weeks. So 2 weeks from now, my message is completely irrelevant. Ignore everything I'm about to say. But for now, you have to listen to me because I'm still 39. When it comes to reaching young people, first thing I'd like to tell you is please quit calling them young people. What a weird phrase. I've never heard anybody outside of church circles say, the young people today are hungry for the truth. Young people might be hungry for sandwiches. Young people are not this strange entity you research like it's a rare bird. Oh, look, it's the bearded young person. It's the... Be very quiet. Don't scare the practicing Catholic young person over there. It's very exciting. So these young people are people. Not to mention the fact the church is very generous in these descriptions of young adults and young people. 18 to 34, 18 to 39. I'm a young adult here. When am I an old adult? So in 2 weeks I'll become an old adult. Oh, that'll be pleasant. Or am I a middle-aged adult when I turn 40? The differences between what a 18-year-old would need versus what a 39-year-old would need are completely different. The difference between what a 21-year-old girl is looking for in her life and what a 39-year-old guy is looking for in his life are totally different. Trust me, I know, because they're not interested in me. So when I give it a shot, they're like, dude, you're so old. I'm like, no, we're young people. Let's share our faith. So it's very important in my mind to talk about, when we're talking about this group of people, who we're really talking about. So, and whether it be, I never really got to work at the parish level very much, young adult ministry and youth ministry and such, so my experience more maybe with TV, radio, print, but hopefully it'll still apply, is, the first thing I would say is, okay, you want to reach young people, you want to reach the under 40 crowd. Do you really want to, or do you just want to tell the boss that you are trying, or you think it sounds like the right thing to do, so you're going to do so? I know that, like when I started this TV show, Generation Cross, I wanted Archbishop Flynn to like the show. He was not a young person at the time. He was 50-some years old. And I thought it was going to be this groundbreaking idea in television. This was going to reach the youth. I was going to go to the state fair with the Archbishop and not do anything fun, but just sit there, and I thought it'd be just interesting to see an Archbishop among the people. So I show up with my TV crew and everybody's there, and the Archbishop canceled on me. It's wonderful, thank you. Women reject me, Archbishops reject me. It's a pleasant place that I live. So the Archbishop canceled on me, and I was kind of bummed out because I had just started a TV show and that would have been a good guest. And then the thought occurred to me, well, if this is really if I'm going for some demo 18 to 34, will the Archbishop be the one that really draws those young eyeballs onto the screen? Well, no. And so his canceling on me is probably the coolest thing he could have done for me, because it gave me the freedom to say, what am I thinking? If we want to reach a certain age group, I probably have to do exactly the opposite of what my instincts of preservation will want me to do when it comes to being in the church, is to say, well, let's just keep sure the boss is happy. Let's make sure the Archbishop doesn't get all worked up with me. And so instead, we started doing crazy stuff. And I got a communications director at the time was like, the Archbishop would like to be on the show now. And I'm like, yeah, well, it's too late now. Now I've got an audience. Now I don't need the Archbishop. Now the Archbishop's got to sit at home and watch it himself. And tell him, by the way, he's too old. Get out of that demo of mine. Skewing my numbers all off. And so if you really want to reach, these 18, 20, 30-somethings, if that's the goal, you got to do it, and you have to do it almost in spite of who, older people like me in 2 weeks, are going to think about how this is going to work. So 5 years ago, I got an offer from Sirius Satellite Radio to move to New York and host what would be the Catholic channel. And so when I got the offer, they flew me out to do a hour-long demo show. So there I am in the studios, and I'm doing my sort of thing, which is a lot of off-color jokes and a lot of innuendo and a lot of things that aren't exactly appropriate. And appropriate to me, I think it's funny, but not everybody thinks so. And Cardinal Egan, the now retired Archbishop of New York, he and Sirius sort of combined for this channel. So I'd have two bosses. I'd have to serve God and Mammon, if you will. I have to make the Cardinal happy, and I have to make Sirius XM, folks happy. So I did this hour-long demo. And the Sirius people loved it. They're like, this is perfect. This is exactly what you're going to do. This is going to reach a young audience. This is exactly what we want. And Cardinal Egan's like, no, it's not. I can't stand this guy. This is horrible what he's doing. I have no interest in this. So I came back to Minnesota. I said, would you come back out? I said, okay, I can use the extra miles. Frequent flyer miles are always good, so I flew back out. Second trip, I toned it down a little bit. That's not much for me, but I toned it down a little bit. And the Cardinal was still upset, still was unaccepting of this thing. So I flew out a third time. When I flew out that third time, the executives of the company went to him and they said, listen, you're starting a Catholic channel here. You supposedly are trying to reach this young demographic. You want 20 and 30-somethings listening to this new channel. If you want old Catholic radio, it already exists. Nobody's listening to it. So keep that if you want that. But if we're going to put a ton of money into this thing and you don't want to hire somebody who's actually going to reach people, then we might as well fold the channel up. Now, obviously, the guy was Jewish, so he didn't care what the Cardinal had to say about him. So he was like, what are you going to tell me? So he's like, I'm just telling you, this is about a company. This is about a business. And the Cardinal goes, well, Lino is not my cup of tea. Which, again, who speaks like that? Young people don't speak like that. But he goes, Lino's not my cup of tea, but I suppose we're not supposed to be programming a channel for a 78-year-old Cardinal. And I give him a lot of credit for saying that, not just because I have a job, but I give him a lot of credit because that meant he stood aside. He said, you know what? It's not for me. And now for all these years he calls me Lino Unruly, and we're friends. And we're cool. And we like each other. But if you really want to reach an under 40 crowd in the church, then you have to ignore the, in 2 weeks, over 40 crowd who might tell you, I don't like this, I don't like that. Good. I get notes all the time about, now my boss, Archbishop Dolan, I love Archbishop Dolan. He and I are cool and we hang out. But when I get a note that Dolan didn't like a joke, I go, I bet he already has a relationship with God. I think he's going to be just fine at the end of time. I don't know about a lot of other people in my age group, but that's who I'm trying to speak to. That's who I'm trying to reach. And if I upset a bunch of old people along the way, I have to accept that because it's not my target. It's not my demo. It's not what I get paid for. And so if the church is going to say, let's reach X group, under 40, what have you, well then I can't, as much as I like Archbishop Dolan or Cardinal Egan or anybody else, get stressed or nervous about the fact that, oh no, somebody who's not supposed to be listening to me in the first place doesn't like what I do. Well, I can live with that because it's not what I'm supposed to be doing. So, if you're going to do stuff like this, one of the things I would first suggest is not just keep your audience in mind. As I say, young people today, 18 to 39 or whatever, are going to be a wide group of people. So what I do is when I started my TV show, I had one type of person in mind. And when I started my radio show, I have a slightly different type of person in mind. And this will sound egotistical, but that's not a big shock for me. It's me. Now, the person I'm thinking about is me. Why would it be me? Because I think about me when I started the TV show. I thought about me when I was in my mid-20s. When I was in my mid-20s, I was Catholic. I wouldn't go to church every Sunday. I didn't know the church was serious about that being a mortal sin if you miss Mass, but you learn things when you grow up. So I didn't realize a lot of these things, and so I tried to do a TV show for somebody who was born and raised Catholic who might just simply say, well, I don't really know. I mean, it's sort of like when I grew up, the dentist tells you to floss, the cop tells you not to speed, the priest tells you to go to church. These are flexible things, right? I mean, I've never flossed a day in my life and I don't have a cavity. Granted, I'm a young person. When I get old, I'll get cavities, but I've never had a cavity in my life. always speed. I've gotten one speeding ticket in my life. Speeding must be fine. Priest told me to go to church on Sunday. I miss a mass. I go, I feel okay. Turns out it was not that big a deal. So my audience was me then to say, okay, I want to reach the person who was raised Catholic, has no opposition to the faith, still identifies as Catholic. How can I speak to that person? Now, everything I do, and I think everything you should do when it comes to reaching your audience, is have that person in mind. And understand that other people are going to need different things, and you're not going to be reaching them, and you're not going to be meeting them, and you have to be okay with that. I'm okay with me keeping the faith at a very simple, basic level for somebody who's not so sure about Catholicism in the first place. I'm cool with them saying, I'm learning from Lino on TV, on the radio, I'm being entertained. And when somebody says, I need to see where in Scripture purgatory's existence is, and I'm like, okay, good luck, I don't know. Go online or something, what are you talking to me for? It's not what I do. Somebody else can do that. And so if you keep your goal in mind, who the person is you're trying to reach, and then, now this is always an awkward one, and Paul hinted on it, who's going to be on the bus, right? We got a lot of probably good-hearted people in the wrong places in the church. They're in the wrong spots. And nobody likes to admit it, but maybe they can't be relatable to young people. Maybe they're not going to be able to be great communicators. Well, why don't they get out of the way? Why don't they move and do something different? What's the problem here? Because if you think about it, there's Catholic Charities. Catholic Charities does great work. And what I mean is by employing people who would be otherwise completely unemployable in the Catholic Church. I can't imagine. I work in TV, I work in radio. There are so many people, Catholics in this business, who could never get a real job if it wasn't for the Catholic charity, known as the Catholic Church, that employs these people. So, you want to reach the under 40 crowd. You have any skills or ability in this type of thing? And if you don't, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's a fine thing. I'm going to prove this point in an embarrassing way. I can't sing. Now, I'm going to prove that. There's a reason why nobody will ever let me do this as like a cantor. I am the bread of life. Who comes to me shall not hunger, and he who believes in me shall not thirst. No one shall come to me unless the Father something. And I will raise you up, and I will raise you up, and I will raise you up on the last day. Yeah, thank you. Very impressive. So if I'm no good at singing, it doesn't mean I'm a bad Catholic. It doesn't mean that I shouldn't be a part of the Catholic Church. It means I shouldn't be the cantor. It means I'm no good at that. Well, I heard an amen. It's a little strong, but okay. That's my point. We got a lot of good-hearted people, well-intentioned people in the church. Maybe, boy, I have a heart for the ministry with the youth today. Geez, stay away from them then, because you're going to be horrible at this. There are plenty of people who will be excellent at it. There are tons of college graduates always coming out going, hey, can I work for the church? And they go, no, we got a 70-year-old here who's really speaking to the heart of the young. Oh, well, God forbid I try to do something for the church. And think about it. You don't even have to pay them anything. You hire some 22-year-old, they don't even know they're supposed to be making money in the real world yet. Take advantage of them while we can. So we want to do this sort of thing. We want to be working with the under 40 crowd. Do we have the talents? Do we have the abilities? Do we have the right people in place? When it comes to Catholic media, we don't. When it comes to parish life, maybe some places do, some places don't. But it's so available to us. It's so ready. It's so ready to be done. I can't imagine that it's not being done well. And I think it's a real call for each of us to say, okay, what are my gifts? What are my talents? What has God given me, and how can I share that with others? One enormous point when it comes to the young people is relatability. Now, this is not something that can be faked. This is not something that can be forged. this isn't, if anybody knows, there's these, I think they've stopped them now, these Sunny Delight commercials, you know, the orange juice with the super cool mom. Hey kids, drinking orange juice is cool. And her pants are up to her chin. And you know, you go, hey ma, I don't know if you're exactly the cool mom that we all thought you were going to be, but okay, I'll get my vitamin C if you tell me, mom, because you're cool. I mean, come on. If you have people who are trying to do this sort of thing and can't relate, again, it's the wrong people. What does somebody in their teens or 20s or 30s want from the church? They want to know, what does the church have to do with my life? How does this impact me? How does this relate to me? And obviously we live in a consumeristic culture that's going to ask those questions, and those aren't the wrong questions for anybody to be asking, to say, what does this God of yours have to do for me? How am I going to benefit from it? Can I relate to what you're saying? These are essential questions when it comes to church, when it comes to communications, when it comes to all of what we do as Catholics, is making sure that we can relate to people. If we have to try to relate to people, we're not relating to people. It's who we are. It's me being able to say, you know, I hate going to confession. Well, no, that's a strange thing to say. Wait a minute, I'm the Catholic guy. What do you mean you hate? Well, who on earth likes saying their darkest, I get stutter when I think about this, darkest, dirtiest secrets? Why do I want to tell you about my pride and my lust and my jealousy and my envy? I mean, I do it on the air every day, but why would I, when I'm not being paid, want to tell you these things? And I hear Catholics, I hear priests, bishops, you name it. Oh, a sacrament of reconciliation, it's such a beautiful thing. What a gift it is. Well, where is that in Scripture? Well, let me show you. John chapter 21, Jesus gives the apostles the power to forgive sins. That doesn't make me want to go stand in a line on a Saturday afternoon and tell a priest these horrible things I've done in my life, these things I'm ashamed about. But if I tell you, yeah, I don't really like to go, maybe you can relate to me. If I go, boy, it's super embarrassing, and listen, when I'm an old person, it's going to be great. I assume I'll have a lot less sins. Barely get off the couch when I'm old. I don't know. I got a couple thoughts in my mind, and I'm like, I don't even remember what my sins are anymore. Now I'm very able-bodied. Got a strong back. Who knows what sins I'm going to be committing? I don't want to be going into this confessional with the sins I've got. Well, I can tell you who relates to that are people in their teens, their 20s, their 30s, trying to figure out where their careers fit in to their lives, where maybe the wives, the husbands, the kids, the roommates, all of these things we're struggling with. And you go, well, I need somebody I can relate to. So at the parish level, at the communication level, can we relate to the average person who goes to church on Sunday or doesn't go to church on Sunday? Can we relate to them and say, yeah, you know what? It kind of sucks going to confession because I don't like telling a priest my sins. And I go, but wait a second, I know half the priests in this room, in this church, I know half the priests. I have to change my voice, so don't tell me what it's like to have to, I got to put on a, bless me, Father, for I have sinned. I have to put on some weird Silence of the Lambs voice so they don't even know who I am. Maybe people start relating to that. Because I go, people can relate to, I'm 30 years old, I don't go to church anymore, I don't see what it has to do with my life, and I'll say, well, I'll tell you what it has to do with your life. It brings peace to your life. And I'll tell you why you go to confession is not because of the fun it is to stand behind three old ladies. Father, I may have been inattentive at Mass once. And then I show up and the priest drops the Bible. He's like, what's going on over there? By the way, open strong. Always a good tip for the kids out there. Open strong with your confession. You don't want to throw a couple venial sins in there and sucker punch the priest later on with a mortal sin. Priest will thank me later for that one. That's good advice. You believe me. So why do I confess my sins? Because I want to be right with God. Because I want peace in my life. Now, people can relate to that of any age group. People can relate to, I want meaning in my life. I suffer in my life. I want to know that there could be redemptive suffering. I want to know that there is a plan for my life. I want peace in my life. And at a time when I'm 70 years old, maybe it's going to be a lot easier to look back and see God's hand and go to daily Mass. But I need to know now how that benefits my life. And that's what we in the church get to do. That's what we have been given the gifts and talents and abilities to communicate, is the love of God, the peace that comes with this, the misunderstandings and everything that there might be going on in the church, to say, I get it. I relate to you. I understand. And by the way, for those of you who are not young people anymore, as a person who will be a not young person in 2 weeks, the beauty of it is, this is a message that goes beyond 20s and 30s. This is a message about relatability. This is a message about peace. This is a message about faith. And this is something that we can all communicate by being real, by being authentic, and by showing people, young people and old people, what it means to be Catholic. So thanks from this young person today for letting me be here.